Welcome back everybody to another MOTOBOB video. We're here at the Deus Lodge, just outside Bournemouth. And we're here today to ride this, the BMW CE02. Now this definitely caught my eye when it was announced a year or so back. But this is my first opportunity to ride it, and so I'm very much hoping that it's just as fun to ride as it is to look at. So join us as we take a bit of a tour around the local area, lots of city riding like it's built for, and we'll tell you all the good and bad along the way. Now, one of the reasons that we've started today's press ride at the Deus Lodge in Bournemouth is to kind of show off this custom bike, which they've built in collaboration with Deus. I believe the colour scheme, the graphics were designed in partnership with one of the staff members there. And then the finish was applied by Image Design Custom, who are, top-notch paint specialists here in the UK. So this one is actually the standard CE02, not the Highline edition that we've got over there. So that means it's got black forks instead of the gold anodized. But actually it suits the overall scheme of this bike a little bit better. I think they've popped the mirrors off to give it that lower look, that cleaner look. And then we've got pops of this very punchy orange on the bar ends. We've got the X kind of graphic in the front wheel there. Along here, a couple of Deus logos, a little bit more of that orange accent on these grab rails, and then this really nice reupholstered saddle with an embroidered Deus logo in that matching orange towards the back there. I just think this one looks really, really good. I've been seeing Tim riding alongside me. He's been on this one so far, and it looks good standing still, but it looks even better on the move. All right, see you later, mate. I've got to say, they do look amazing, these bikes. I know that's a big part of the pull probably, but yeah, in the flesh, every bit as good as the press pictures that they first released. And I think what's impressive is they took a very daring concept bike and managed to keep it pretty close in terms of how interesting it looks. And so for that, I think you've got to praise them. I love the disc wheels, for example. The single-sided swing arm, seems unnecessary, but definitely adds to the looks. And then this particular bike, the ones that we're riding today, have the Highline pack, which gets you the graphics and the rim tape and the slightly fancier looking seat. And I think certainly from a visual perspective, it does stand apart from the standard bike. Now, we'll get onto the price a little bit later, but of course it is, being a BMW, a little more, quite a bit more perhaps, than your average city-biased electric two-wheeler, but it does definitely at least look the asking price, with a brilliant build quality, an original design, and something that, completely stands apart from that generic plasticky little electric scooter kind of vibe. Now, like I say, there are two versions of this bike. So one is 5 horsepower and AM license friendly, whereas this one is 15 horses and you can ride this one on a CBT. But the key difference between the two is that despite having the same motor, the 5 horsepower version gets 1 battery, whereas this one gets 2. That means, of course, much more range, but also more power, and the top speeds are really quite different. So the 5 horsepower version gets about 28 miles per hour top speed, so you're pretty much just limited to in-city stuff. Whereas this one is good for 60, and so if you are slightly out of town, at least you can do that A and B road work to, get into the more urban environment. Honestly, I've got to say this thing is an absolute doddle to ride. It's one of the most apparent things when you first start riding it, with a really accessible low seat height of 750 mils, so it's very easy to get both feet down. You've got these fairly risen up handlebars that get you nice and upright, It's a bench style seat as well, so you can shift forward or back if you like. And also, unusually, let's say, you've got 2 sets of foot pegs. So you can see I've got my feet on the rearwards pegs, which I guess double as the passenger pegs. And that makes it feel kind of sporty. They're kind of tucked up fairly far back, and so you can support your weight. So they'd be perfect if you were riding a bit quicker. But then equally, you've got these front ones too that give it a slight cruiser position. They're lower, further forward, more stretched out. And so I wasn't really expecting to like this that much, but I just love that you can tailor the riding position or choose a riding position based on basically, you know, the style of riding that you're currently in the mood for. Now, could you ride this bike 2 up? Because it's a long seat in some ways, but it's also quite a compact machine. Well, Tim's politely agreed. Oh, right, in order to not have too much touching, I can scoot quite far forward, look, and use the front pegs. That's about as far back as I'm willing to go.
That's as far back as I can go as well.
Comfortable?
That's right.
Shall we ride home like this?
Yeah, but
that's a no, is it? Then the weight of it, 132 kilograms. I was going to say fully fueled up, fully charged up. It's, you know, nothing. It's next to nothing. And it also feels like, I had this with the CE04 as well. It feels like the weight is very low slung. And so you don't have a, you know, a full fuel tank up here with the weight held high. And so it's just very confidence inspiring. And also, I was saying to Tim, we should have a slow race because it's really easy, even without a clutch, to ride at walking speed, maybe even less. Last one to cross the line wins, but also a foot down obviously is a disqualification. 3, 2, 1, go.
Oh fuck. We're getting close. I don't like this. Oh mate. No.
Yes. Also reverse, see how far you can go without your feet down.
All right.
It's very tough. Go on, mate, feet up. Ah, okay, my go, hang on. Ah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I just went. Thanks, mate.
All right.
Then you've got these little 14-inch wheels which just flick side to side effortlessly, and so it just feels like a bike that pretty much anybody could jump on and ride. You don't have to be an experienced biker, and I expect that's not an accident. I'm sure it's by design, because the 5 horsepower version can be ridden on an AM license, and then this one, the 15, on a CBT. So it's got to be easy to get on with, and I think they've absolutely nailed the brief on that front. Thing is though, as well, the peak power figure doesn't tell the whole story, because 15 horses doesn't sound like a great deal. But it actually makes a really healthy 55 newton meters of peak torque, which is much more comparable with like a, you know, a mid-capacity motorcycle. And so there's definitely a bit of punch to it when you give it the beans. They say that 0 to 30 is possible in 3 seconds. And so yeah, if you do want to make a quick get away from the lights and get ahead of the traffic, it easily does it. And of course, like I said earlier, it's only 132 kilos, so it's not got much mass to propel forward apart from my slightly less than athletic composition. Woo! You know, they marketed it with us as this has been a rack, but it don't fit.
No, yeah, I was like, no one's gonna ride that with that.
One of the things they marketed this bike on was having a little skateboard rack where the front pegs are. And so I had to bring one along to see if it actually fits and whether that actually works. Now, I can't put it upside down with the grip tape like that because it's gonna take all the paint off. But it does kind of fit. You might have to use a bungee or something, but you could actually use that as the front pegs, especially if you've got it firmly attached. I think with the right board and the right strap to keep it in place, you could do it, but this little puppy is probably not quite cut out for it. Anyway, I'll skate off, Tim. Whoa! Always wear full motorcycle clothing when you're skating, because it's better to be safe than sorry, Tim. You've got to have elbows, shoulders, ideally back protection.
Because you're going to fall over a lot with your skill.
If you are looking to make the most of the 15 horses that are on tap though, then you might want to get this Highline edition, which is an additional cost. I'll get onto some of the other extras it comes with in a moment. But one thing it opens up is the Flash riding mode. So you've got Flow, I think, which is the most chilled out, gentle, economical delivery of power. And also it has a bit of regen. So instead of revs, you've got power on the dash here. And you can see when you're decelerating, it actually goes negative to show that you're charging the battery back up. Then if you want to get a little bit more acceleration out of it, let's say, you can go into Surf, and that gives you, actually it doesn't feel vastly different on the throttle, but also it doesn't have any regen. You can see it doesn't go negative anymore. It changes the power bar. And so this is much more of a kind of coasting, surfing feel. And it does, you know, genuinely give it quite a different experience when it comes to riding it. It sort of rolls on into corners, so you might want to use the brakes a bit. But maybe if you're in town and you like to coast up to the lights and stuff, then yeah, it gives it a bit of a different personality. Flash though, that's the one you need when you want to get a lick on. But it also does give you a bit of regen as well. And I think actually for quicker riding, you do want a bit of that engine braking feel that you get from the regen when you are slowing down into corners. And so it does make sense if you're maybe trying to ride in that more dynamic way to have a bit of regen too. So yeah, the Flash mode is part of this upgraded Highline pack, but on top of that, you get heated grips, an integrated phone charger of their own choosing, this dedicated color scheme, but I think the biggest reason to get one is that you actually get a fast charger. Now, it's charged with a 3-pin charger, so you can just charge it in your garage or at home. And with that one, I believe it's 2 hours 48 to go from 20% charge up to 80. The fast charger though, it massively improves the situation. It's for the same 20 to 80%, 1 hour 42. And so certainly worth looking at if you're potentially going to charge and go out again in the same day, as opposed to just charging it overnight for the next day's commute. Range, realistically, I've been using Flash mode a lot today, but I think you'll get 40 or 50 miles out of this 2-battery version. Maybe more if you use more regen and you're stopping and starting more and perhaps riding a little less aggressively. But I think for most people, if you are just using it in the city, just for commuting, and you know the range that you're doing every day, then it should be ample. The only thing I will say is the batteries are removable if you take the seat off, but you can't remove them and charge them indoors as far as I'm aware. You have to use that 3-pin charger through the bike. And so that does mean you either need somewhere to charge it off street, maybe a front yard or front garden where you can run an extension, or a garage, or somewhere to get it indoors. That contrasts against, for example, the Honda CUVe, which I also reviewed recently, that has 2 removable batteries that you take out and charge indoors. So something like that, possibly a lot better for someone who lives in a flat, for example, where you've got to take them upstairs. But if you do have the right charging situation, perhaps this is a little more convenient because you don't have to lug batteries around. Now let me list out some of the techie features we've got here, because there is plenty. We've got keyless for a start. I think that's standard on all of them, and also this nice little 3.5-inch TFT dash. You've got quite a comprehensive set of switchgear as well, because there are a fair few functions to manage. So you've got an R button up here on the left for the reverse, a directional pad for navigating through any menus. There's a lock button over here, one for the heated grips, a kind of kill switch as well, and also the power switch, and then a mode button down the bottom there, just to go between flow, surf and flash. Then you do have, I think, ASC or stability control, so I think that's basically traction control. You've got ABS on the front wheel. You might have gathered this from some of the ride pass footage that we've had so far, but it doesn't have ABS on the rear, so you can give it a little bit of a woo. And I would actually say, apart from the obvious considerable cost when it comes to rear tyres. That's another thing that I actually really like about this bike. It means you can just play around on it and have a bit of fun. And then the other thing to mention on the tech front is you have connectivity if you get the Highline package. So you'd have your phone here and that would be used as the screen. I think they call it connected ride or something, but you can use the switch gear to control, you know, navigation and some of the other functions on the phone. So no need to be jabbing around at the screen for touchscreen. And it also means you can see some of the bike's data remotely with the app. So if you did want to check on, you know, how well charged it is or how much range it's got, without having to go out and look at the bike itself, then you can do that, which is, I actually think, you know, a nice little convenience. If you don't want to leave the office or your home and just check in on it, then that would be quite handy. Genuinely, I've had such a good laugh on this bike today. It's probably one of the best electric two-wheelers that I've ridden in terms of just its curb appeal, the fun it gives you, and, you know, an appropriate design for its intended use. It's not going to replace a touring bike or anything like that. But for zapping around town, it really is very, very, very enjoyable. I think really the only big blocker for most people is going to be the price, which is $7,450 for the 5 horsepower version and $8,450 for this one. Although if you do fit that Highline pack with the fast charger, the heated grips and the more appealing styling package, I'll say, then that rises still further to 9,355 quid, which is a heck of a lot of money for a bike that basically has 125 levels of performance. Naturally, there are much more affordable ways, let's say, to get similar utility, let's say, out of a bike. But I don't think this is aimed at the price conscious crowd. It's for people who have a bit of extra money, perhaps someone who might buy a BMW car and they want something to get to work on, you know, that's like a little rolling piece of art, something that looks interesting, a talking point, something they can be proud of owning. And I think it really does check all those boxes. As always, we'd love to know what you think of this bike, so do let us know down in the comments below. And also, I'll put that review of the Honda CUVe on the screen now in case you missed it. Do hit subscribe for more of the latest motorcycle news and reviews right here on MOTOBOB. A massive thanks for watching today, and we'll see you in the next video.